Hi everybody, welcome to video number 10, which is part of the Advanced Endnote video series. If you've made it this far, then you're well on your way to becoming an Endnote legend. So congratulations. This video is actually, I hope, going to be a big highlight of your Endnote journey. I'm going to show you how you format online references so that they don't look a complete mess when they appear in your bibliography. What I'm mainly going to focus on is how this is done for professional submission of articles to journals, but actually it applies pretty well to your assignments as well, because you'll get a lot of marks, as I've said in previous videos, for conforming to the instructions that are given to you and making sure that your reference list looks really slick and is completely consistent between the references. This video is going to be a little longer. I'm going to take it nice and slowly because I think it's quite an important one. So to start off with, I'm just going to go to my previous article example that I've been working with during this video series. This is a real article that I wrote as part of my PhD, and you can see this Vancouver copy example was from the previous videos. We created some rules in our own reference style. Now, you can see here reference 14 and 15. So these are real references which I used for the article, and they're to do with blood and organ donation and organ transplant. So they are online references which there was no hard copy available. Now, when you use online references, worth saying at this point that you will probably be scored in your assignments for using robust references. I would say do not use Wikipedia references, do not use websites and things which are not peer-reviewed and are not robust. You can get away with a couple of not peer-reviewed articles provided that they are from a robust resource. So for example, that might be some national level statistics from a government agency, that might be the World Health Organization, or even a well-known local organization when it's key to illustrating your point. But make sure that if you do insert these kind of references, they are formatted so that they're consistent. Now, if you look at these references here, as an example, I'm going to take you to the author guidelines for the journal that accepted this paper in the end. Now, they've said here a few instructions for how they want their references formatted. And in your assignments for university, the rules will be exactly the same. If you get strict instructions, stick to them religiously. If you don't get strict instructions, but you're told to use, let's say, APA referencing style or Vancouver referencing style, then just make sure that your references are really professionally done and that they're all the same. So if we look down here for this journal, they're telling us that they want journal references to look like this. What we're interested in for this is when you scroll down and you find an online reference. So you can see here that this is an online reference, so we would want to conform to this. Now, if I go back to my article and I flip out of Vancouver example and go to the style that I previously had for that journal, this style was downloaded from that journal, but more often than not, they're not 100% watertight. So even though you download them from the journal website, they're not going to be totally complete. This doesn't necessarily apply for your assignments, but it may do, because when you format your EndNote to APA, the formatting style, for example, it might be that your EndNote file does not know how to handle an online reference that well. If you look at these, I've just flipped them into an online reference format, and you can see that they're now very much more professional looking, and they're both exactly the same. So I'm going to go back to the Vancouver example so that we can see our changes being made. We don't have to wait for that to happen because that's not important, but I'm going to show you how to format it so that those examples are going to come up looking perfect. So when you go into your EndNote, make sure that you're working with the correct style. The Vancouver copy is what we want here. Just as with the previous video where I showed you how to change the inputs that EndNote is using to format its bibliography and its references, go into edit the Vancouver copy output style. Once you're in here, you want to go to the bibliography and you want to go to template. Now, you can actually decide what you want to call your electronic articles, but I would say format them according to this electronic article. Now, let's say, like this is all a little bit complicated. You could go through and you could make this perfect. So you could say, okay, this is turning into this for my Vancouver copy. We've got some sort of title here. Then we've got some sort of 2018 report, 2018. We've got a date here, but it doesn't say whether that was the date of publication or access or what. And then we've got available from, and that's the URL. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to copy over the style that I've already formatted before, if I can do this, from the European Journal of Cardiothoracic Surgery. So again, I'm going to go into edit the style. I'm going to go to bibliography templates. And here for electronic article, you can see that this is a much more neat and tidy one. So I'm going to copy that by doing Control C. I'll close it down. It doesn't ask me to save because I haven't made any changes. And I'll now go back to edit the Vancouver style. And in templates, I'm going to go back to electronic article. And where it says all of this stuff, which is turning into something that's a bit messy, I'm going to paste my instructions from the previous one, which I know is going to make it look neat and tidy. When I close this, it'll ask me to save. So I say, yes, I'm saving Vancouver copy example. And now when I go back to my article, if I go update with the Vancouver copy example as the style, you should see that this Ans Cotter and this transplant service reference are going to go to a much neater and more professional looking format. They will still be in the same format because the key instructions coming from Endnote are the same. So you can see that this is now looking much nicer. And in your assignments, if you have, let's say, 10 online resources, they're all now going to be formatted exactly the same, and they're all going to look professional and they're going to look good. Now, what if I wanted it to be slightly different? So you've got two ways that you can edit what appears here. You can either edit in the reference itself. So you might want to edit the Ans Cotter reference, reference number 14, because you've noticed that actually you accessed it more recently now, so you accessed it today. So instead of saying 29th of November 2019, you actually want this to now say today's date. So we've got to go down in the reference preview formatting here. And we need to find that date, so date access. And we need to change that, so we're going to say now today's date when I made this video, 8th of April 2020. And then you can save, or I'm in the habit of kind of, yeah, forget that, just save it. Okay, so now it's saved. 8th of April 2020 was when we're telling it that we accessed it. So we go here and we click update. And now it will obviously only change for reference number 14 because you haven't told the EndNote output style to change everything. You've just told this one reference to say that it was accessed on the 8th of April. So that one says this, but you can see that here in the next one, the UK NHS Blood and Transplant Service, it's still saying the 29th of November. Now, if you wanted to go into this and remove that completely, you would have to go into the style rather than the reference, and you would have to go to Vancouver copy, and then you come to the templates section of the bibliography. You know that you put it down as an electronic article, so you're going to say date access. I actually want to completely delete that from here, so I'm going to delete that. Um, and now I can't explain why that had two date access, but just for the sake of your learning, let's just delete both there. Okay, and now let's save this. I'm in the habit of clicking the cross and then saying, yes, save changes. And let's see what it does when we apply those changes to our document. So we're watching these two references here. Both will change because we've changed the output style. And we're now going to see the access be removed, I hope. Yeah, so you can see it's removed access. But it's actually done something weird. It's changed the publication date to published EPUB, right? And so this is where I can't necessarily teach you exactly what you need to change for your individual circumstances, but you'll understand how it works. And then you go back into templates and you say, okay, so published EPUB, that didn't work. What I actually wanted to have there was the date of publication. So now you have to find out the date of publication. And we've got here EPUB date, December 2018. So when you go in, you're going to have to figure out how to make that style use the EPUB date. So you can go to your electronic article, and you can take a punt at this and say that it's going to be date or something. But actually, the best thing to do is to find something else up here which actually has the format as you want it for the EPUB date. So what I'm going to do to find out what the formatting was is I'm going to switch to a style. I'm going to switch to the output style that I know has that how I want it, because this is going to save time. Electronic article, and then here is epub.date. So now I know that that's how Endnote wants that formatted, so that it's going to publish it. And actually, I can see that it's got this extra like access bit. So you can play around with it and see what it does, but I'm just going to copy that whole thing up to the mid-level dot here. And sorry if I'm losing you here, but you can see the concept behind it, which is the important thing, rather than the actual individual things, the individual sort of data that I'm using as an example here. So now I go back to my Vancouver copy, and I'm using the template that I knew worked before. And I'm going to go to electronic article, and I've seen that EPUB didn't work, so I'm going to paste in EPUB date access. And let's now save that and see what that does. So we can now go back to our article, or we could preview it here. And you can see now it's, oh, well, the preview is actually old because I haven't rebooted Endnote. But let's update it in here. And hopefully this will show us what we want. You might say at this point, you know what, it's just for an assignment, so I'll just want a quick workaround to get this done. Okay, so you can see now what that's done is it's put published December 18, comma, access. So you know that we have to go back to Endnote, and you have to say in the Endnote style that you want to delete that comma access, because that's obviously adding in something that is not correct. So you go to the templates and you go to this comma, EPUB date, comma, and then access, and just get rid of that, and then we'll see how that works. So you can see a little bit of trial and error here. Whilst this is uploading, I'll finish what I was going to say a minute ago, which is that you might say that for your purposes, loading in references for an assignment that you're only going to submit once, this is actually overkill. And actually, I would agree that if it's for an assignment where you know you're not going to be asked to edit it and change it, you could get away with turning off the instant formatting so that Endnote doesn't overrule you, and then you just edit it how you wish down here. But remember that once you do that, if you ever want to turn back the Endnote formatting on, then it will reformat everything in this document according to the instructions which are coming through Endnote. So this is actually going to almost be correct because it's now going to say published December 2018, but we've got an extra space here that we don't want. So we have to go back to Endnote. We go into the output style. We edit the correct one, which is Vancouver copy. And we go to templates, and we know that we're dealing with an electronic article. And we've got here published 2 dots. So if I go back here, we've got published 2 spaces. So obviously we now know that these dots mean spaces in Endnote. Delete one of them, close it and save it, and then go back to your document and then update. And now this, you see the cursor where this circle is, the 2 spaces here is going to disappear, and then you'll have 1. And you can see now that actually it did the same thing for this reference below, because remember we were editing the output style and not just the single reference. So you can see that actually if you have multiple references that you want to do that for, it's still worth going into Endnote and doing it for the source formatting, because then everything will definitely be correct. All of your online references will now be in the format that you've told Endnote to put them in. Now, I'm not going to carry on and make these perfect by removing this available from, because I think I've illustrated the point. The only last thing to say is that if you wanted, let's say, these 2 to be different, or you wanted you had 5 online references and 2 of them were more like an online journal which wasn't peer reviewed, and 2 of them were more like some online kind of statistics website or something, and you wanted Endnote to differentiate between the 2. So then you would go to the output style and you would have a look and see what different categories you could put those 2 and those other 3 articles in. So you might call one of them a blog, or you might call one of them an electronic article and the other one an electronic book. Section is Endnote's word for chapter. It's the American word for chapter. But you can see that this allows you to specify a difference between an electronic article and, let's say, an electronic book. Then when you want to assign each reference to what type it is, you click on the reference. So let's stick with this Anscotter reference here. You go here and you say, okay, I'm going to tell Endnote this is going to be my electronic book rather than the electronic article. And that's how you tell Endnote that all of those references that you've told it to do like an electronic book, it will automatically go and do those. Okay, so that's the end of that video. That's why it's the advanced video. It's a little bit more complicated. It's still worth going into Endnote and spending the time to make the formatting absolutely perfect. Even for assignments, if you have a few changes that you want Endnote to make automatically for you. But if you're doing an assignment and actually you don't necessarily need that, then sure, you can just do the shortcut of disabling Endnote and quickly typing in the change. But remember that if you undo that and re-enable Endnote auto formatting, then you'll undo every change that you've made. When it gets to beyond uni, then this actually is a complete must. You have to have your Endnote 100% watertight. And one good reason for that is that journal editors and other people might actually request to see your Endnote library, and the revision and resubmission process can mean that you totally have to chop and change your article, and it's almost impossible to do that now without Endnote. So thank you very much for listening to this slightly longer video, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.